What's up, y'all? Welcome to Danny's to Talk. I'm your host, Robert, and today we're going to be talking about Ruffy and the Riverside. So, off the gate, I would just say Ruffy is a puzzle platforming game that respects your time, your money, and also respects your creative intelligence. So, let's dive into this game, which I had so much fun playing. So, off the gate, from the title screen, you can tell that this developer, which is Zockrates Publishing, just had so much fun making this game. So this is like I said, this is a 3D platforming puzzle game that focuses around this little bear character named Ruffy who has this ability called swap. So swap allows you to basically switch around textures within the environment, which I'm gonna dive a little bit more into in a second. So this game, just by looking at it, it stands out. Like when I first saw this game a while back, it just immediately caught my attention, just not only because of how it looks, because so this game is fully a hand drawn, hand animated game that I'm gonna put a link to an interview that they did with a site the other day. They kind of went into a lot of the background and creative stuff that came up with the game, but from the creative look of it, as well as just when you see this little fuzzy, little frenetic bear running around like one of my kids that has had too much candy and hyped up on sugar, it just immediately just captures your attention. And like I said, like from that initial title screen of how colorful it is, the kind of I call like island vibe music, you're just like, oh yeah, I am in for a fun time. Now, what I said earlier about it respecting your time and your wallet, this game, I pretty much did 100%, got the platinum trophy on it under 20 hours, and the game is going to be just 20 bucks. And it's going to come out on pretty much everything, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo Switch, as well as Steam and Epic Game Store. And this is definitely a game that I wish that I knew ahead of time with 100% confidence that I was going to be able to get my hands on a Switch 2, because I probably would have picked this up on Switch 2, even though I enjoyed playing it on my TV and stuff, of course, on my PS5 and getting my trophies. But y'all know me, those of y'all that have followed me for a while know I do a lot of traveling and stuff around with my kids to the different tournaments and events and stuff, whatever. And there are many times where I was sitting in the car at a practice or whatever, and I was like, man, I wish I could be playing Ruffy right now. Now, going back into the other point I talked about with the game, trusting your intelligence. One of the cool things about this game is that all the tools that you need to solve a puzzle, you have everything you need from the beginning of the game, because pretty much you just have, you can run around, you can punch, you can swap out stuff, whatever, and that is pretty much the core of what you need. From there, it is just you figuring out what the limitations or what the parameters are for your creativeness. So, pretty much a lot of the swapping stuff is kind of within the pocket of like elements. So, like example, like fluids or fluid like things. So, you can swap around water, lava, ice, quicksand, mud, stuff like that. And same thing with like colors, and same thing with like wood, metal, rock, etc. And as long as you have, that, then you will be able to complete this game, because that was a very fun and interesting part of this game was reviewing it. I was in a very interesting position that I haven't been in a long time, where I had no help. I had no YouTube video, no online guide I could look up for help. It was like, oh no, I'm stuck. Okay, I got to figure it out. But one of the things that I appreciated as I continued to play the game was that everything that you need to solve a puzzle is within your immediate environment. It is just pretty much just thinking logically of like, okay, You see what you need to do or somewhere you need to go. Okay, how can I get there? And pretty much from there, it is just experimenting with your surroundings. And I love that the game allows you to try and fail and it doesn't penalize you and you don't get stuck. And as far as like having to like, oh no, I can no longer progress, whatever. It is like, no, whatever you might be stuck at, eventually, like some stuff, it automatically resets itself sometimes, and then other things there is a way to manually reset, like a puzzle or something, whatever like that. Now, speaking of the puzzles, I enjoyed these 2D wall side scrolling puzzles because it kind of reminded me of like in Mario Odyssey, where there would be some parts of the game where you were able to go into the wall in a 2D plane to do certain things, or whatever. They have some of those in this game, and one of the things about the game, like I said, is that it trusts you to figure things out, but it also will provide a solution or at least a hint if it needs, because like those 2D puzzles or whatever, when you're talking to the little crows and stuff, they'll tell you the little riddle or whatever, and they're like, hey, if it's too tough for you, I can just tell you what it is for, of course, for a few coins or whatever, which, hey, there's a abundance of coins. So if you got to use them, use them. Don't feel guilty about having to use them. They are there to help you out. But there are these other puzzles that involve having to basically draw a pattern that is somewhere within your near environment, and there were some of those where the pattern was like in like a super crazy place that I probably might not have seen without super scouring for it or whatever. And the person helping you with those would be like, hey, I'll show you what the pattern looks like, whatever, for a few coins. And there were a few times where I was like, okay, I know how to do the puzzle, whatever, but I just can't find where the pattern is on the wall or whatever the case may be and stuff. So, but like I said, I appreciated it as like, hey, there were some points of the game where I spent a long time like running around the environment, and then there might be something sparkling or twinkling, and I'm like, okay, let me just take a break and come back to it. And then it's like, okay, I need to get something on top of this tree. Okay, I done tried jumping and gliding from a nearby cliff. I done tried shimmying my way up these trees and rocks. Nothing is working. But then it's like, oh, there was something in the environment that was giving me a subtle clue that when I saw it, I had to tell my wife, I was like, yo, I appreciate this game for allowing me the freedom to figure it out. Now, I will say, as far as like accessibility and stuff, whatever, for me, it was fine. Now, for my son, my 7 year old son, Vash, he had a blast playing the bits and pieces of the game that he could, but there definitely were a few key things that were a little frustrating for him, or that he just was like, whatever, I'm not even gonna waste my time. Was for one, the game is very dialogue heavy, because so there is no voice acting in the game, it is all just text and reading. And there were certain chunks where I was like, okay, like these characters have been talking for a long time. But he would just kind of just button mash through it or whatever, and some of the puzzles would be a little bit too obtuse for him at his age. But like I said, hey, you can kind of just like go through and basically buy the solution if you feel so inclined to. Now, I need to step back because I didn't even dive into like the story setup for the game, because I guess in some sense that really wasn't the big factor for me. It was kind of like a driving thing, I guess, in some sense. But I just had so much fun just running around, looking for collectibles and stuff, whatever. But the setup and premise of the game, like I said, you play as this bear character named Ruffy, and pretty much you for the most part, you're kind of just using your swap ability to help your dad out in his basically his like art shop or whatever, where customers will come through and they want basically you to copy and paste some other paintings or different stuff, whatever, for custom work for them, whatever. And then one day this mole guy named Adler shows up, and he's like, okay, hey, something's going on. I need you to help me in searching for these marbles or whatever that basically can allow you to transform the environment or whatever. So you go with him, and without going into too much of it or whatever, but basically a big bad gets unleashed, destroys the town or whatever, and so you thus go on a journey to collect these uh, these items that you need to collect in order to repair the city and to basically heal and get things back up and running, whatever. So that is pretty much like in a general nutshell, the basic crux of the game and what you're trying to do and the driving force of it. Now, I will say, all in all, the story and stuff was cool. Like I said, it wasn't the number one thing I was looking for, but it was a fun driving force. Like I said, my son, he got into it or whatever because he had fun with like, oh, okay, this is the next objective or the next thing we got to go after, or whatever. Okay, Daddy, let's go and find it or whatever. So that was, like I said, fun for my son and something we kind of bonded over, experimenting and finding these different things, whatever. But all in all, though, like I said, like the just the creativity, the uh, e- uh, expressive nature of the game, whatever, that was above all my favorite part of the game. And one thing I will say too, with this being this studio's first game, I am beyond excited to see what they might be able to do going forward, whether it be another uh, platforming game like this, which I would definitely appreciate if they did another style of game like this, whether they do something else in this world or if they tackle a new idea or whatever. But whatever it is, I'm like, hey, this was such a fun and creative starting point that I definitely can't wait to see, whatever they might do. This studio and team is definitely on my radar now. So hey, in the coming years, if I see their name pop up again, I'm gonna be like, okay, yep, that's the team that did Ruffy and the Riverside, and I am here for them. Now, other little things I'll say about the game too. Overall, performance wise, the game like 90% of the time ran fine. Ran 60 frames per second on my PS5. Now, I will say there were a couple of points to where when I'm going super duper fast between areas or whatever, it kind of would like stutter for like a half second or whatever as I'm like transitioning. Now, if I'm just like walking in between, it is fine. But like I'm talking about like I'm running full speed or I'm riding the bell of hay between areas or whatever. The game is like, yo, slow down, buddy. Uh, but yeah, but all in all though, like I said, fun game, very creative. And like I said, if you are a fan of any of those classic games, like I said, like a Banjo Kazooie, Crash Bandicoot, Paper Mario, stuff like that, or whatever, then this game will be at home for you no matter what platform you pick it up on. But I think that the Nintendo Switch is going to be a very popular platform to get this. So, but like I said, this game respected my time, my wallet, even though I didn't pay for it. Thank you for the code again. But hey, $20 for a fun throwback that took me under 20 hours. Oh yeah. So, but yeah. So with that being said, that's it. This puzzle here was definitely like one of my favorites or whatever. And like I said, it's just like a key example of the creativity of the game of just like this wall puzzle where you have this piranha fish swimming around or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, what do I need to do? Okay, well, there's some ice nearby. Throw the ice, freeze it. Or this new one that I just found out, you can throw lava in there and cook the fish. but uh, but yeah. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching and or listening. As always, you can find me everywhere at Danny's Talk for everything, not just video games, but also for discussions on fatherhood and family, manga, anime, TV shows, and movies. And as I always say, treat yourself to something nice and buy this game. So, with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Y'all be easy. Peace.